Ready.
Well, I was going to tell you that sometime or another, when we moved to Oregon, because I believe I went to the 4th grade in Oregon, we moved to Hood River, Oregon, and again it was to follow the fruit. And on the way there, Dad had built a pen out of a wooden box to put on the back of the trailer we were pulling for Ming to be in. And somewhere or another, we stopped at a gas station, and Dad had let Ming out to run around a little bit, and we had all gone to the bathroom, you know, all the things you do whenever you're kids and you stop at a gas station. And anyway, we all got back in the car, and we left, and we had been gone for probably an hour, hour and a half, and someone said something about Ming. And anyway, come to find out, we had left Ming. We had forgotten. Dad thought Mom had done it. Mom thought Dad had done it, or one of us kids had put her in there anyway. So Dad said we'd gone too far and we were not going to go back after. Well, we all started crying. Mom started crying. So Dad had four crying females in that car with him. Of course, you can imagine the words he said, that he was going to have to turn around. But he turned around and went back, and he said she wouldn't be there. But there she sat, patiently sitting there, just looking at cars going by.
Wow.
Waiting for us. So,
oh, I bet y'all were so happy.
Oh, yeah.
Then you cried more.
Well, I don't remember that. I just remember, yeah, we were so happy to see her there, because Dad said she wouldn't be there. You know. Then the only thing I can really remember about when we lived in Hood River was, again, there were a bunch of cabins there. It was at a packing place. And there were cabins there, and we did have a babysitter there, because Mom worked too. While we were there, I guess maybe my grandmother, or my grandfather and step-grandmother must have come out there too, because I know Bernice came out. She was not married yet. She came out there and stayed, so it must have been my grandfather and step-grandmother were out there too, because I don't remember her staying with us. And she brought her boyfriend with her. And, well, come to find out, she was pregnant at the time. They did get married, but it was after they came back to Missouri. But Bernice was just 6 years older than me. And I thought she was just it. You know, everything, whatever she did, I wanted to do. But anyway, what I was going to tell you was two things about Mom and Dad that were, well, one thing was Mom's saying was, we may be poor and not have any money, but staying clean does not cost anything. So we always were clean. I mean, we were clean. We had clean clothes on. Granted, we didn't wear shoes a lot in the summer because shoes cost too much, and you saved them for school. Or I don't remember going to church when I was really young. I don't remember going to church until we were older in Bolivar. And clothes that we had, I wore a lot of Bernice's hand-me-down clothes, and then therefore Phyllis and Hazel got the clothes, you know, when I got, because, you know, we didn't have a lot. My grandmother made us clothes. We'd get a box from her at Christmas, and she would make us clothes out of feed sacks. Because feed sacks is printed material, and a lot of people use that for
I always picture feed sacks being burlap.
No, they were a lot of your dish towels are made out of the feed sacks, and they would be pretty prints. They would be prints, you know, and they were durable. But the dresses all looked alike. Round neck, a round collar, sleeves that came down from about like this, and then they would be straight until they hit you right about here, and then there would be a ruffle at the bottom, about that wide a ruffle. And, oh, I wanted a button dress so bad, and I was so embarrassed I had to wear those feed sack clothes. I don't know if Phyllis and Hazel were or not, you know, but I was. And the other thing I wanted to mention right about now is that I don't ever remember my mom and dad hugging us, kissing us, showing any affection. at all. I just don't remember that.
Hmm.
I don't remember having to say prayers or being taught, we should say prayers when we go to bed at night.
Mhm.
We never called them Mom and Dad.
Mhm.
We called them Ernest and Zelma.
Hmm.
We did not call them Mom and Dad until I was up into high school.
Mhm.
I remember that. And asking Mom one time, well, how come we call you Ernest and Zelma, and other kids call their parents Mom and Dad?
Mhm.
And Mom says, well, I don't know. Maybe it's because I always called my mother and father Barry and Berthy, she said.
Huh. I remember you always telling us that anytime we had friends that would call you Delores, you didn't like that.
Right. I thought they should call, unless I gave them permission to call it. They should call me Mrs. Barker or whatever, Miss Barker, whatever it was. Well, I guess with you kids, it would have been Mrs. Heimsoth. Yeah, unless I gave them permission. I wanted you kids to grow up that way too. And that's the way it should be, but people don't have manners anymore. But see, back then, that was manners. Unless the people gave you permission to call them by their first name, you should not call them that. But anyway, I think now that's about all well, one other thing about Oregon. When we came back to Missouri, to Bolivar, I remember, I was always, I still have a real fear of crossing over big bridges. I don't like doing that. If I'm driving and I cross the bridge, I like to drive across it real fast. I don't know what that has to do, if Mom said something about it, and all those trips we made, but I remember always being afraid of going over bridges and closing my eyes, not wanting to watch.
You never asked your Mom why?
No.
Hmm.
And that's part of my fear of water, I think, too, of water where I can't touch the bottom, is being afraid that the bridge was going to break or we were going to crash through the side and go down into the water and drown. But anyway, we were coming back across the desert, I remember, and it being so hot. No air conditioning, of course, and just having the windows down. And Dad stopping at a gas station, or they call them filling stations back then, to get gas, and him coming out with orange soda pops for each of us. Now that was a real treat. And it was real cold, and that was the best thing I've ever had. And especially for us all each to get our own bottle. That was really something. And it was wonderful. I don't like orange soda pop now, but I remember that was so good and so cold, and it was such an unexpected thing for Dad to do. That was wonderful. One other thing I will tell about Dad being a jack of all trades and having to do with not having much money. They came back from Washington one time, and this is something Mom told me, I don't remember it. They came back from Washington, so I don't even know if I was born then, but I believe so. Lived in a tent when they were out there, and again it was with the fruit growing something or another. Peaches, I think it was at that time, the state of Washington. And we lived in a tent, and they could have all the free peaches they wanted, seconds, but not the number one peaches, because of course they were picking peaches at that time. Anyway, and Mom canning a bunch of peaches, and then that was when Dad's mother died, I think it was, and they got word that she was real sick, and see, I don't remember her, so I don't even remember now when she died. I've got it written down someplace. I believe that was when we had to come back just all of a sudden, so they packed up everything that they could on the old car that Dad had, and they had stuff, tied on top, tied on the back, tied on the sides, everything else, because they didn't have money for a trailer. And Dad having a flat someplace along the way, didn't have money for a new tire, so and Dad saying that he would pump it up, and put one of those temporary patches on it so they could get someplace where he could fix it better. And Mom had to take all the canned peaches that she had work all day, come home at night, and can those peaches to help money-wise, so we'd have something to eat. that she had to leave all those jars of peaches there on the side of the road
'Cause they were too heavy?
weighed too much.
Oh my gosh.
And how that hurt so bad, she said, to see. Thinking
Oh, I
of all
bet.
the nights when she was tired that
Uh-huh.
she had done fixing those peaches, and then she had to
Oh,
leave
my
them there on the
God.
side of the road. But the other thing I was going to tell you about that, sometime on our trip back to Missouri, Dad blew a gasket for something. I don't know what it was at the time, you know. They did that, and anyway, not having any money, Dad had to try to make all the repairs on the car himself, and they had a side of bacon that Mom would cut, and they would cook over a campfire for us to eat for breakfast in the morning. Dad trimmed the rind off of that bacon, because used to, when you buy it, it would be a whole slab, and then you'd slice off the slices, and there would be that heavy rind,
Yeah,
which was the skin. All right, Dad cut that rind off and cut a gasket out of that pork rind and put it in there to replace whatever it was, and that got us back to Missouri.
Wow. That's
So
smart.
that's the kind of thing that people did back in that time when they didn't have any money. They would make do. They would figure out ways to use other things that didn't cost to do it.
Wow,
You know,
that's
that's
interesting.
a lot of common sense. And I'm going to quit right now because that's about it until we get going.
Okay, thank you. Say bye.
Goodbye for now.